Instaface.
I pressed go live.
All right, it's probably going to take about 3 minutes for that.
It says it worked.
It went live?
Threadstagram.
All right.
Good on YouTube.
Instagram should be up now too, because that's a different button.
Okay. So it should be up, maybe?
Should be up. I can't check anything right now.
Okay. We're just getting going, everyone.
Yeah,
Thanks for
YouTube is-
joining us.
Oh, good, another BIOS update. Okay. I'm just going to sit here and watch my laptop do things and catch fire. So, okay. I think we're live on everything. Oh, yeah, we got audio. I didn't check any of those. That.
Are these new questions?
The top one is one from last week that I looked at, but then the two ones there are new.
Okay. All right. Well, are we up?
I think we're up on everything. I can't again verify it.
Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Javad. This is Nate. We're here to answer all your 034 motorsport questions. Please shy away from update questions. We're not really answering those. So
To answer all of them, we're working on everything that we said we were working on. We're still working on it if it's not released, and we're getting it done as quick as we can for all of the things.
and if you ask and we don't answer it, please don't get offended.
Yeah, we're not dodging it or anything. It's just we've never. I don't think we've.
Well, we can't even get through all the real
Yeah, we've maybe had
questions.
one day where we've been able to hit all of our questions. So usually it's like a page or two left.
We need to focus on
actual
actual
questions.
not the updates, which we don't even have answers for.
Yeah.
But I will be happy to take some time to explain what an estimate is. Someone's confused.
Do you have an ETA on when you might do that?
I'd tell you, but I don't want to lie.
Within the hour, maybe estimated.
I don't know. That one comment's really not. Hi, the rear sway bar didn't fit on my Golf GTE. I'm doing time attack with it in November, but the front one is set to soft. Is it going to be bad? What should I do? No, I would say on a Golf chassis, the upgraded front sway bar will still help the car, especially on track. I don't know what's different about a GTE. Do we have those?
I haven't been in fixed. No, we don't have them.
1.4.
Oh,
Just
okay.
looked it up.
Is it
Well,
a torsion rear?
It has a torsion beam rear axle.
Yeah.
So you have a very different type of rear axle. Basically, the same rear axle that came in a Mark 1 Rapid GT is what you still have.
Technically the same front suspension too. McPherson and
Yeah. No, you're right. It's not much difference. In Europe, I saw a lot of Volkswagens with that beam rear axle. It's cheap and it's good, but the Volkswagens in the US have had independent rear suspension since the Mark V era, except Jettas.
there's a couple of Jetta, the base
Yeah.
model Jetta you can get with a beam axle.
Yeah.
The TDI stuff, some of them have it.
Yeah. But it's not that hard to fit a bar on the rear of those. But all you really need to do is remove the rear axle and bolt in the
All you gotta do.
remove the rear axle, and inside the rear axle there's a U-shaped stamping, which is the beam. Inside there's a sway.
Mm.
And so if you can basically cut that out and weld in a stiffer spring steel bar.
All you gotta do.
Or what you can do is box in U with, I would say, maybe some like 14 gauge sheet metal and weld that in. So that will stiffen the rear axle and make it harder to twist.
Yeah, we used to do all kinds of that with the old Mark IV chassis, and then we had separate, basically almost toe links that would triangulate that
Right.
because there's nothing really holding those wheels
Because
together.
they have these trailing arms or legs that come off, and there's no support, so they just kind of bounce around. So from an alignment standpoint, they're terrible. So you triangulate with toe links going from basically the bearing carrier to the center of
Close as
the
you can
beam
get to
axle. And so anyways, but yes, I would say you're still better off with the front bar.
Yep.
And then you can do quite a bit with your alignments. You could run some toe out in the rear, and then maximize camber in the front, so you have grip in the front. But what the front bar will do is it will help keep your inside front tire on the ground in corners, so you can apply power in the corners, which will help you make up time. The 034 reverse to stock tune process affect the flash count?
That depends on the specific ECU. We've talked about this a number of times. On most of the modern stuff, it does. So in MG1, all the CMOS 18, CMOS 16, a handful of the later MED 17 ECUs, they all get reverted, or they stay at whatever it was when we first saw the ECU is what we try and target. And if there's a mix match in there, if it looks like it's already been flashed a bunch before, we'll revert it all to one in most cases, just to keep it clean. So again, yeah, it's going to depend on the specific ECU.
B9, how important is an intercooler with stage 2? I have downpipe and intake only. It's very important. It's important for stage 1 too. The benefits are huge even on stage 1. In fact, a stock car would benefit from a bigger intercooler. There's really no negatives or trade-offs for running the intercooler. It provides cooler, more consistent temperatures for the intake temps on going into the engine. I would say unless you're like in a very cold climate where it never gets above like 45, 50 degrees, it's definitely something you'll want.
Yeah, even then you can overcome the heat shedding abilities.
Yeah.
It's really one of those like almost zero compromise things.
Yeah.
Other than maybe some shrouding of the radiator if you're in a super hot climate.
Is there any concern running Brisk plugs with the standard terminal nut on the B9S5? Basically, they say they're running them. Just they want to make sure
running Brisk plugs with
there's no problems. If the car runs and doesn't misfire, then it's
instead of the flat top. No, we have not seen issues with that. We do have the newer style with the fag style top button, but we've never seen an issue with the earlier ones.
Is the Pure 750 tune coming soon? I'm honestly not happy with my IE tune. Well, glad to hear you're not happy. Yes, our tune is coming.
Sorry, it's actually not
imminently.
Yes.
Well, sorry for you,
yeah.
but bodes well that their tune has something to desire. So, yes, we are finalizing things, and we should be releasing very, very soon.
Yeah, and then we do offer discounts for switching as well.
Yeah, 25% discount for switching. What maintenance would you guys require or suggest be done to a B9S4 with 70,000 miles before going to stage 3?
I mean, all the normal stuff you're going to be doing. Stage 3, I'm assuming you're going to be doing injectors, so that's one of the big ones that gets overlooked on some platforms.
I think injectors is the one thing I would say is,
yeah,
other than standard maintenance.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just finished.
Yeah, my laptop is back.
Yeah, other than that, you could do a basic health check, but
yeah, there's some things. I mean, if your coolant pump has never been done, that's one of those things that kind of goes out on all of them depending on year, and I don't know what year vehicle this is, but there's an actuator in the pump that can start leaking coolant into the basically the vacuum lines to control the ice gate solenoid. So that's one of the non-standard thing that this platform's kind of known for. PCV valve, probably not a bad idea if you haven't done it.
Yeah, that's true. The PCV system.
I think there's anything else kind of unique to this platform.
Yeah, although I do think that increased boost pressures make the PCV hose fail sooner. Like, I don't think it's designed to hold.
Sure. No, not disagreeing, but getting a healthy one in there, or known,
at least checking it. Yeah. I'm cruising around with a friend, B9S4, and his oil temps reached over 240. Should we run thicker oil in summer and hotter temp in 100 minutes?
If it's just cruising, those oil temps are managed by the ECU. Yeah. So it's targeting, probably 110-ish C, which is right in that ballpark.
240 is where it's.
Yeah, and there's emissions reasons. There's a number of reasons the ECU is going to be targeting that. So that's absolutely normal. Yeah. And it's not gonna matter what oil you're running. The ECU is going to be able to manage that temperature.
The oil thickness doesn't have a lot to do with its temperature. The oil thickness has to do with its viscosity at different temperatures. So, if, for example, you were in very, very hot climate and you were seeing really, really high loads, the viscosity of any given oil will reduce or it will get thinner as temperatures increase. So then you would want to increase the base viscosity so that you could achieve a higher level of viscosity at the higher temperatures. I think we can assume that you're not in some extraordinary climate and just cruising around is not putting any load on the engine. Like Nate said, the ECU is actually controlling the oil temp to be 240 degrees at that point. So you're good. And this also bodes well for your oil because inevitably, due to condensation inside the block, you're getting a lot of water in your oil. And at 240 degrees, that water is evaporating very quickly and boiling off. So that's actually one of the reasons the factory does keep oil temps above the boiling points. You would actually not want to be cruising around with 190 degree oil temps. At that point, water would be building up in your oil, and we talk about that a lot on here. I have a stage 193 tune on my RS5. I plan on bringing my car to the track, and I'm curious if a cold air intake. Cold air intake is a good move for me if I plan on doing a track series monthly. The intake's just a good idea all around because it will allow your stage 3 setup to make more. Your stage 193 setup to make more power. You don't need it for the track. You can go to the track and work on your driving skills just fine with the stock intake. Our intake will produce more power, and it will also let more of the turbo sounds out, which a lot of people enjoy.
and the efficiency. I mean, it will typically reduce intake temps a bit because you're working the turbo less. So your pressure differential across the turbo to hit a specified boost level is going to be lower, and that just means you're not working so hard to compress the air up to the desired level when you've got more air at the turbo inlet to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of benefits to it that aren't may not necessarily be peak power related, but it's going to be a more efficient air pump for sure.
B9, B9.5 platform, dynamic plus lowering springs. Do they need coil spring sleeves? Do springs make contact on that platform? Any of our springs that need coil sleeves come with them. So you can see this is the brand new out of the box dynamic plus spring. The front spring has it, the rear spring doesn't. It's not so much whether the coils make contact. In a lot of applications, our springs do stack and make contact, but they don't make noise. Some of the applications they do. So in those applications, we provide the coil spring sleeves to dampen or isolate the sound of the metal on metal contact. If the spring kit needs it, we typically provide it. We find that we are seeing customers buy additional spring sleeves, and I think there's some internet engineering going on out there. So we haven't really found a need to question why people are buying additional spring sleeves. You don't need to. We certainly don't mind selling more of them, but we'll be straight and tell you if it needs it, it comes with it. So don't feel the need to do that. Anything that you don't need to do. Someone says, "Can I get some help with the RS Q8 platform, please?" Yeah, that's a really cool car. I think we will. Well, I think some of the parts we do already probably fit it. We should have
links and stuff like that.
Yeah, in some of the inserts.
Yeah, the inserts.
But I don't know. It's we don't see a lot of those. I don't know if it's real.
Yeah, it's certainly not a mod heavy. Yeah.
The big one would be the tune, which is all the
Yes.
teeth.
Right. Why did Audi quote me $1,800 for a control arm bearing when you guys charge $150 for the part?
You're gonna have to ask Audi.
Yeah, I'm not sure what part you're referring to. What's a control arm bearing?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the exact part is, but no, yeah, there's cases where the OEM parts are many orders of magnitude more than what we're charging for some of our stuff. So look at like control arm kits, and you're like $3,000 for like a control arm kit from Audi.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge Audi has is, they're an OEM, but they don't make, they don't make the control arms on the cars. They outsource it to a factory, like in Hungary or Czechoslovakia or something like that, who would make these things for them. So they're buying it from them, and they're using them in their cars. But they also have to put all these parts, every part virtually in the car, they have to put it into a separate parts, this kind of insane logistics parts system
I cannot even
with like
imagine.
hundreds of millions of parts in it. So they have to manage all that. And then they have to stock these parts in tens of thousands of locations around the world. A lot of times they're sitting in a distribution warehouse near, the dealership, but even the dealerships have these on the shelf. So if a part costs, if it costs Audi $50 to buy it, and let's say they charge $500, which would be a pretty reasonable markup for someone like that, then they have to ship and deliver these parts all over the world, track them, inventory them. I mean, it's just crazy. So the costs just stack up. And I think that's a big reason why these kind of Audi OE parts are so expensive compared to us, where we're either making it ourselves or we're sourcing it from a factory. We get it. It's on our shelf. You buy it. We ship it to you.
And how much of that
direct
is
to the customer.
Audi's not even really incentivized to sell parts? I mean, what's their?
They don't want.
They want to sell cars. I mean, the only reason they would make the parts at all a reasonable price is kind of just word of mouth after the purchase fact, and people would be buying the cars again. So
yeah,
a certain level of absurdity they can get away with, but
that's my point. Like, they have to make a lot of money on these parts just to be able to support the entire parts business. It's not a big profit center for them. So unfortunately, us Audi people end up paying the price for that. But thankfully, there's companies like 034 Motorsport that bring you, in most cases, higher quality parts at a fraction of the price. And it's, again, because we can cut out all the logistics, all the middlemen.
Yeah, we're dealing with 3 to 4 distribution centers, not thousands.
What are the Uberflow side mount intercoolers for the B5 S4, and why are they so expensive? This is a joke product that we probably executed too well, and a lot. Thankfully, we've never sold, and no one's ever actually paid the $8,000. But there's been over the years people who've said that they're like saving up for them, and it's their dream intercooler, and it's the ultimate solution. This was an April Fool's product that we came up with one year to kind of poke fun of some of the other companies on the market that were bragging about how high flow their intercoolers were.
Well, there was all the,
but not mentioning how inefficient they were.
Yeah, and it was in the midst of this storm of Uber working house and naming brands.
Well, that was
for everything. Yeah,
that was the name was making fun of these American tuning companies that were using German-esque tropes.
I drew those up and modeled them up and did the flow simulation in a day, and then we keep hearing about it now. So,
yeah. The joke is that the highest flowing intercooler has no turbulators, has no core. It's just a straight through flow volume.
And golf ball dimpled.
Yeah. Well, we golf ball dimpled it just to add to the mystique.
The ridiculousness.
Yeah. But no, it's a joke product. They're that expensive so that we didn't sell them. I think if we had priced them at like $800, we would have gotten lots of orders for them, and then just had to give people's money back. And I really don't like giving money back after. My hands are very sticky. The money just sticks to my hand and it doesn't want to go back. So $8,000 is just a discouraging.
Don't do it.
Yeah. But if you read through it with what I just told you, hopefully you'll get a chuckle.
Same for our Flush lowering kit. Probably not worth buying.
That one's more jokey looking. The testicles are real.
Oh, those
are
are
in stock. Yeah.
I just sent a pair.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we do sell testicles regularly.
The snorkel, we get a few inquiries.
Oh, the snorkel charger.
That's a good idea. Unfortunately, it's not. Yeah. No, you could use it.
Yeah, a non-insignificant amount of engineering effort actually went into that product.
Yeah. I just saw a video yesterday of someone driving through a flooded river in a BMW. And
I saw that.
Hydrolocking their
Yep.
So they could have used it.
Typical BMW activity.
Yeah. No, it was going so well, and then the water goes over the hood, and you just hear like clunk, 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 clunk.
And then all the smoke.
B8.5 3.0 T, I see Merc Racing is now doing an upgraded pump CWA 150. Any idea if this will still go full blast with advanced launch active, and would it be worth upgrading?
So the CWA 100 and 150 generally are installed without the PWM wire in there, so they're full blast like all the time. So sure, yes, it'll run full blast. It's just going to do it all the time.
My SQ5 B9 is tuned by a local tuner. Will anything happen to my car if brought back to stock and use your tune?
It'll be on our tune.
It will run much better and be much faster. Yes,
chances are good. We put a lot of work into that, but no, I mean you're fine. You can flash back to stock with theirs or our software. I don't know how easy it is with whatever you've got there, unless they did something really strange. You should be able to just buy our tune, our cable, and all that. Plug it in, flash back to stock first if you want. It's not a bad idea, just to ensure everything's OEM, and then go ahead and flash our tune over it.
Yep. And we do offer a 25% switching discount if you can prove that you have a tune from said local tuner. What happens when you reach the flashing limit? Oh, should we tell them?
Ooh.
The flash count?
That depends on the ECU specifically, but generally in the
oh no,
the police.
Oh.
Depends. You get away with a lot, but in like Motronic World, MED 17, MG1, you get to a limit, and then you'll get into there's a series of checks that happen before you start flashing the ECU. One of them is called checking your preconditions. If you're over, it's around 100 thereabouts. Depends on the ECU and what sector, but you'll just get a preconditions failed check, and you're not going to be able to get into a flashing session on the ECU. So it kind of bricks the ECU, but it's not really bricked. It's just a mathematical error / limit that gets hit. So that's why we specifically cap a number of those ECUs, and you get the side benefit of your flash counter never increases.
Support said you were developing further tuning for the 4M Q7 3.0T. Yeah, that sounds great. Will those files be applicable to the C7.5 A6 CREC engine? Have your TCU paired with APR ECU and would like to do 034 ECU. Yeah,
it's a very close correlation. They're not the same calibrations. They're not the same ECUs, but they are quite close. So a lot of the strategies we apply to one do apply to the other. So yes, there will be updates coming for both.
Yeah, and we are working on the Q7 tune. I've been testing it, but breaking it, but feels good. I've been driving on the E85 file, and it's not, the performance figures are pretty substantial though.
The gains,
like the quarter mile improvement is
like a second and a half or something.
Yeah, but it's still a big car, and I'm looking forward to testing some of the pulley ratio.
Yes. Yep.
Updated pulley, because the motor's so linear that you really have to rev it.
Yep.
B9 SQ5 ride feels very sloppy and performance is very underwhelming. Engine revs super high, but all show, no go. Still on warranty and still debating the pros and cons to do tune. I've done transmission mount. What else should I do besides tune? I don't know if you're on static springs or air ride, but I've driven Nick's SQ5, which is our in-house vehicle, and I would not say it. I mean, I don't know what it was like.
Yeah, he's bone stock. It sounds like this one's bone stock.
I mean, stock, yes, it's definitely sloppier. I would suggest, the lowering links if you're on the air ride. If you're on the air ride, definitely our sway bars will substantially improve the handling, and I think the sway bars are a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Our inserts.
I think wheels and tires, honestly.
Oh, yeah. It depends on the package you're on
yeah.
now. Yeah, wheels and tires is not a bad idea.
Yeah, like a 20-inch or something like that. We have a 20 by 10.
21 by 10.
21 by 10 that fits on those really nicely. And, but you got to do the tune, man. I mean, just go stage one at least. It's going to completely transform the car. The stock power is underwhelming for that car. It's a bigger, heavier version of the S4. So yeah, I would say stage one, sway bars, wheels and tires, lowering links. That will completely transform the car.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. See if you can find someone that's got all that stuff done. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Kind of see what the end result might be like.
We're doing a lot of SQ5 stuff. So. I don't know if you're anywhere near here, but we have a couple cars here too.
Yeah.
Do you have a opinion on GFB diverter valve paired with a tuned car? I just installed on 2.02 and was surprised by how noticeable of a difference there was. I wonder noticeable how.
Yeah, what difference are you measuring? Is this a metric like you using boost control difference? Your wastegate duty cycle is different. It sounds different. It's more performant somehow. So no, we don't have a lot of data back.
We don't use them or do anything.
We don't. We calibrate with all the OEM parts because that's obviously what's on the majority of the cars. So we try not to put too much other stuff on there unless we have a need for it. So.
Really, the only thing, from my understanding, that these GFB type products, and I think Forge has some too, some of them have like a spacer that goes in that allows some bypass of recirculated pressurized boost to hiss out to the atmosphere. So it's a very aesthetic,
there's
sound
audible
thing.
change. Yeah, the go
where you get the on shifts.
Yeah, the GFB one I believe also has their specific port that goes around to kind of apply boost pressure to the top of the valve to help it stay sealed better.
But the factory,
there was an earlier version of Mark 6 diverter valves that were like failing.
Oh no, the early Mark 6 stuff. Yeah.
Volkswagen released it.
Yeah, they came with a hardened valve and it all that.
The early ones had a rubber diaphragm that would rip, and then even the factory. We started selling
the new factory.
We started selling a solid plastic version, and then the factory ended up doing it anyway. Yep. So that's why I say that the only if there was some kind of like maintenance, reliability problem with these, then I would say there was some kind of substantive reason. I think really the main reason is the hissing aesthetic of hearing the valve.
Yeah, we haven't had a maintenance issue with one of those in a very long time.
We just use the factory ones. We honestly never think about it. It's really, there's so many other places to focus on than that.
Yeah. So upgrade your intake for more noise.
Yeah, intake will get you a bunch more noise.
The intake will get it. Because the air is bypassing, but then the factory intake dampens it. It's designed to make those sounds.
Yeah, they do everything they can to get rid of any mechanical sound.
And we design our intakes to make them not as loud as possible, but loudly audible, and then we kind of curate the amount of sound that comes out.
Yep.
A lot of questions. Mm-hmm. Any concerns with sunroof creaking and potential damage to seals glass when cornering hard after installing sway bars in a C8 A6 Allroad? I have never heard this.
No, I mean the amount of twisting load difference and whatnot is so inconsequential. As just hitting like a speed bump on one side of the taking it across two wheels.
I have never experienced this. I mean, I have much stiffer sway bars in my Q7 in that car. There's no creaking.
Yeah, no. I mean, the forces are like I said. There's the normal driving dynamics and forces applied to the vehicle are way beyond what you're going to see in a sway bar change.
Yeah,
at a chassis twisting level like that.
I would question that the two things are correlated, but I'm skeptical that they're correlated. I'm not saying I don't believe you.
Correlation versus cause.
Yeah, I think you could probably disconnect the sway bar. You'd still get that creaking sound, which is probably more of a function of something going on with your sunroof. Audi sunroofs are kind of problematic.
Yeah, even dirt makes them creak.
Oh,
they have to be the tracks have to be lubricated.
Well, it's just an engineering nightmare for that big of a sealed surface area, and it's got to slide and articulate two different directions. The fact that they don't all leak is astonishing.
Mm-hmm. B9.5 3.0 T stage 193 with pump gas, 93 shell, have some timing corrections, have 15,000 miles total. 034 support recommended to replace spark plugs. What plugs do you suggest? How common is this?
I don't know what your corrections are. There's going to be some corrections typically on like 91 and 93. If it sounds like there's a little more than normal if they're recommending spark plugs, but as far as what to swap it with, I mean, the stock plugs are fine. There's no problem running stock plugs. We have Brisk plugs as well.
The Brisk plugs are also very good.
Yep, we've got great luck with those. So yeah, either is a good option. It sounds like though there was a follow-up that said the same car had an overboost. Check engine light on stage 1. How worried should I be? That one I would check out a little more. that very well may be a coolant ingress issue that we talked about before.
Yeah.
So I would investigate that a little further, make sure you don't have a mechanical issue in there. And we can sometimes, you can usually see it in the logs if it's a intermittent thing and your coolant pump, that valve is starting to fail and you're burping a little bit of coolant through those lines. It may not show up on every log. So I would investigate further. You can usually see visual indications that that's starting to fail.
Mm-hmm. One investigation has 034 done to choose TTE. Well, TTE is not a new company. We've been dealing with TTE for probably at least 10 years. We have met with the I don't know which one was the owner, but we've met with the team at TTE. They actually have been to our facility. And, you know, they're a very reputable turbo company in the market. So a lot of what we do tuning for is driven by what customers want. And when we were, you know, doing some market research on what is the most supported stage 3 B9 3.0T turbo, TT was the 710 was at the top of the list. I mean, it wasn't even close. Pure had a 700, I think. Something like that.
It was 700 and then they renamed it.
Yeah, it just, but the number of people using that was much lower. And then we also talked to Pure at the same time, and they said that they were ditching that in favor of the 750, which is the current option. So we will be supporting TTE 710, A10, and Pure 750 imminently.
Yeah.
Simply because they're the most desired and used turbos out in the market, and they're proven really good options.
Yeah, we've had. I can't think. I don't know if we've had any issues with their turbos.
I've heard of one customer contacting us with a failure, but turbos are very finicky, and even if you install them and start things up incorrectly, it's very easy to starve them of oil if you don't do something right, and no turbo is going to hold up to that. But I would say the reliability of TE turbos is excellent. I would say, even in my experience, as good or better than Garrett Honeywell turbos from the past when we did those. B9 RS5, my air filter fell off for unknown reasons. It's because the clamp wasn't tight enough. So the access to my turbos were just open for an unknown amount of time. How concerned should I be on anything in the engine has sucked in? Would you guys be concerned?
That's going to be so dependent on what kind of driving conditions you were going through, how long it was off. You can look at the turbo inlet; they'll tell you a pretty good story. Look at the actual impellers on the turbo.
Yeah, that's all you need to do is remove the turbo inlet pipe and just simply inspect the compressor wheels. Usually, if there's any kind of foreign object damage, you'll see it right on the inducer, which is the inlet of the impeller. It will be visible from the front of the turbo.
Yeah, it'll look like little like sandblasting on it, or you'll get like these rounded tips. On the corners, or you'll see an actual like point of impact.
Yeah, the softest like little piece of a leaf. Those compressor wheels are going so fast that anything hits that, it will leave a ding or a dent. You'll see something. So if you inspect it and you don't see anything like that, then you really don't have a problem. Yeah. If you do some logs and your boost pressure isn't meeting the targets, or your wastegate duty cycle is like higher than it should be, that could indicate that you've lost some efficiency due to damage to the wheel. If you're really, really concerned about it, you could take the compressor covers off, and then you could do a full inspection of the compressor wheel, down into the exducer. But I think if you just do a quick check and everything's running fine, I wouldn't stress about it. All of us have run on the street for many, many thousands of miles with no air filters.
Yeah, depending on the build of the car and what we're doing. Yeah. Back in the day, we were just like wire mesh or screen filters on a lot of our crazy builds. And
sometimes the turbo is so big, there's no room for an air filter, and you just run it. So, B9 RS5 owner here. Could you remind us what horsepower the Wagner kit is rated for? Also, I'm hesitant on going stage 1 plus E85 because of Audi's trash stock cooling system for the RS5.
I don't know if I'd call it trash.
It's not trash.
It's doing a lot of work. I mean, the amount of heat that we're trying to shed.
We track those cars with 700 plus horsepower.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't call it trash.
Could it be better? Sure, but I mean, you're talking about a 400 horsepower car with 700 horsepower, so you're going to strain it. But
as far as the Wagner kit, I don't think there's a hard limit. I mean, that's going to be technically every intercooler is a restriction at some point.
I don't know what the concern is, but we run our Stage 3 720 tune on track with the Wagner kits, and we don't have any problems with air temps, or certainly a substantial loss of performance. The bigger problem is really engine cooling, which manifests in oil temps and coolant temps. And so, the tune will start backing off power, not because of air temperatures, but because of the rest of the cooling system.
Yeah, and air temperatures, that's going to fluctuate a lot depending on your ambient conditions. But, the bigger the intercooler you put on there, the more of that heat is going to get pulled out and put into your cooling system, essentially, because that's all, being shed from the same place.
But overall, we found that the Wagner kit is a good match for the TT 720s.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah. It will probably, maybe for 1,000 horsepower turbo setup, we'll have to find something with more capacity and flow. But at the 720 level, it's nicely matched.
Yeah, and it starts getting a lot more invasive when you go much bigger than that.
Oh, yeah.
You're
the air to air,
you're either switching air to air, which is a whole other thing.
It's not a free lunch.
And again, that's going to be shrouding your cooling system even more. So it's all about compromises.
Can a 034 flashing cable be used on multiple vehicles?
Absolutely.
It can be. We don't prevent it from, we don't arbitrarily lock it to one VIN number. We don't really recommend it. If you have our tune, you're going to want our cable.
Yep.
So you can switch maps whenever you want. But in a pinch, the cable is VIN agnostic.
Yeah.
It's the accounts that are linked to VINs.
Yep. Yeah, no, the cable is the same for dealers and end users and everyone in between. It's not going to care what it's plugged into. It's whatever your credentials and your account will let you do.
I don't have any internet at my shop garage. Can I install the hybrid turbo and drive the car around the block before flashing to stage 3?
Not really, because you're swapping map sensors and injectors. You might be able to get away with it if you leave the stock map sensors in to get it around.
Certainly, if you keep all the the ECU running parameters the same, the ECU won't care what turbo is on there if you just kind of put down the block.
Yeah, the bigger issue is going to be your injectors.
If you
and your
change
map
sensor, injector, anything else,
I think you can get away with it if you just do the maps. If you leave the stock map sensors in, and that's it. So those are a real quick swap afterwards.
Injectors, you could live.
Injectors, I'm pretty sure it'll be just to get.
No, it'll run. It may not be running great, but it won't be happy.
Yeah, just keep in mind, once you flash to the stage 3 maps, you'll have to swap the map sensors at that time. So.
I mean, by no internet, does that mean there's no cell service either?
I'm not sure, because you can certainly do it over cell too. So if it's truly no internet,
I would encourage you to try to do it all at the shop just to avoid any issues. Any turbo upgrades for the Golf R MK7 S3 in the works? Yes, there is. There is a hybrid option that we're working on. I'm not going to say too much more about it, but yes, there is.
Yep.
There is more coming. With your high output E60, E70 file requesting E60 and your standard no blend file requesting E60 to E85, what would you recommend someone to do filling at a subpar station and end up at only approximately E50?
Oh, that's a tricky one. That's a really subpar station.
That's insane.
I've never been so really low.
I mean, every station that I've ever used is like E80.
Yeah. It's kind of a tricky spot to be in. I would maybe suggest just burn it off, like flash the 93 file and then just burn it off. That's a really subpar station. 60 is generally a really safe spot to be for.
I would say avoid that station.
Yeah.
Go with something better. Thanks for answering my last question. You're welcome. Will advanced launch control also be available eventually on the CREC 3.0T engines?
Yep, that likely will be ported over as well.
What's the holdbacks with tunes for rest of world cars with OPF? Concerning vehicle is B9.5 RS5. I've been waiting almost a year now.
A lot of it's just been getting a vehicle lined up for us to calibrate.
We don't have those cars.
Obviously, we don't have them here. We had a couple of options lined up at one point, and then those they just ended up selling the vehicle, or it's out of our control. So we're kind of tied to what we can work with the shops at hand. So that's been a lot of it. The tunes are really close. Like, we just need to get some good data, and we need a good representative vehicle. So maybe we can work with you. But
if you'd like to help, shoot us an email.
Yeah, but that's really the biggest thing. I mean, the calibrations are essentially there. We just need to accurately log and test them.
Mm-hmm. Can you use the 034 cable for VCDS?
No.
VCDS does not want that to happen.
I actually tried working with them way back when we were first getting into flash and stuff.
Talking to them.
No, I did. I talked to you, and I talked to the previous founder of VCDS. Because we were actually using that cable a lot for flashing old ME7 stuff, and they let you use the K line. And I was like, hey, can I get a hold of and use the CAN bus? Then we can pimp your cable, use it as a flashing solution for some of the newer cars, and they just flat out denied us access to do that. So we moved on and did our own thing anyway. So no. Long answer to the short question, but no.
B9 S5, is there a stock downpipe stage 3 in the works?
Yes.
We've
had some other pending projects that kind of keep shuffling ahead of that. It is in the works. I don't have an ETA.
What are these, Sean?
Those are springs.
Golf R springs. Market.
Oh, okay. I'm going to post the specs on those. How come there isn't a Dynamic ECU TCU tune for the B8.5 A4? Because we have not taken the time to develop that. We did a B8 tune, and we've sold them, but not very many. And so the unfortunate takeaway was that the B8 A4 market's probably not the best opportunity for us, and so we've moved on to other applications that are more popular. It's something we could possibly still do if we run out of other things to do, but it's pretty low on the list, unfortunately. Let's see. Do you recommend upgrading front sway bar on a Mark 8 Golf R already have rear sway bar? Yes, absolutely. On those MQB chassis, the front sway bar, it's a huge improvement. It will substantially reduce body roll, but it will really help the car turn and handle better. We talk about this all the time, but the Golf R really drives and handles like a front-wheel drive car, and so you want that additional roll stiffness in the front suspension. If you set your car up with all of our parts, it will drive and handle fantastic. It will turn in. It'll feel like just like a relatively comfortable go-kart on the street. It's a pretty phenomenal chassis for just that kind of fun to drive hot hatch sensation. You really can't get that in a bigger Audi sedan. That kind of tossable, really flat, fast cornering. They're really fun cars. Question about mobile flashing. All caps. Not an ETA question. Okay, we'll take your word for it. We'll see about that. Without saying too much, could it have the same customization features like what OBD11 offers, and would you be open to working with them?
I doubt that OBD11 would be willing to work with us on that, because that's going to cut into their ability to sell their. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of their service they're selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as customization features, I'm assuming you mean like soft coding and some of the tweaks like that. We haven't. That's really not something we've put much effort into. There's no reason we cannot. other than just time, and it's not something. I mean, that doesn't really help us in any way. We are baking in a lot of diagnostic and functions that are there for like things like throttle body alignments, fuel pump outs, calibrations of various things on the ECU and the TCU that are part of maintenance or the performance upgrades you're doing. If you swap some parts, you might need to do a certain procedure to make that fully functional. So we're baking in as much of that as we can. But as far as like soft coding and that kind of thing, not really likely. That's a lot of work to maintain and keep up to date with all the different configurations.
I mean, there's no reason we would have to work with OBD11, is there?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be like a shortcut method, like, hey, give us all your scripts for a given platform. But no, we have a lot of that already.
Yeah.
I mean, for most of these, majority of these platforms, we have all that information, but it's not complete, and we would have to test and validate and, be sure we're getting you the right switches and knobs for various functions.
Yeah. I mean, Colonel Sanders may not give us his recipe for 16 herbs and spices, but we could still make some fucking good fried chicken.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's what we'll be doing. What we release initially is not going to be the ultimate product, and we will.
Oh no! Yeah,
we have an in-house engineering team developing this, and we will continue to add features and functionality.
It's going to be evolving, and there's going to be more and more added.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. This is. We always answer honestly, but this person asks, would like to have an honest answer. If you had to pick pure 750 or TT 710, which one would you guys prefer and why? Thanks in advance. We haven't released or finalized, certainly not to the degree that we could talk about it openly or honestly with customers in the market. So it's really not possible to answer this question until we release pure 750. I will address the most obvious insight is that the pure 750, which is rated for about 750 horsepower, is going to make more power than the TT 710, which is rated for about 710 horsepower. So ultimately, the pure will be more peak power, but you'll have to see what the trade-off is when we release, all our advertised data for the 750 turbo kit. So we will release more info, and as we said earlier, it's forthcoming. It's imminent. We're just we're buttoning up, tying the bow, stuff like that on the whole product. Okay. I'm asking. Well, that's good. Why do you not do more for the B9 A4 platform? Well, what else? So we are working on tuning.
Yeah, tuning. We have a vehicle here. We're working on calibration work again currently. The rest of the platform's pretty.
There's a follow-up saying, why has the B9 A4 been forgotten? I guess other than tuning, which we realize and we're working on, what else is there? Like, you could literally build like a race car.
Yeah, we've got
or the baddest ass
intake, ResX,
sports
suspension.
We have everything.
Everything performance-wise, intercooler stuff you can get through the
every
sources, but
every 034 product is available for that car, and I'm talking, tip to tail, everything's there. So if you can. Honestly, and it's not a passive aggressive question.
Yeah, what have we forgotten other than the tuning?
What else
we are currently actively working on?
Yep. Answer that last one. Can you publish guidance on maintenance intervals at various stage tunes? Anecdotally, I hear oil, spark plugs, etc. need to be changed more frequently. Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, could we publish a guide? And that would be nice. It's something we are talking about.
It's not that black and white.
There's no hard and fast.
So much of it's going to come down to the use case and what you're doing with your stage 3 vehicle or whatever stage vehicle you've got is going to depend a lot on your intervals.
In a lot of cases, factory everything is going to be fine.
Sure.
In some cases, I think whenever you go to the track, you should do an oil change.
Yeah, we that's typically our routine is prior to any track event, we do an oil change, and if whatever filters or whatnot are getting anywhere near close, we'll do that. Fuel filters and that kind of thing. It's you want to be ahead of it than it's better to be over zealous with your intervals than stretch it as far as you can to save a buck.
Yeah. Someone's asking about Golf R products. These are the new Golf R springs. It's a half set.
Mark 8 Golf R.
Sorry, Mark 8 Golf R. And this is the front spring, and this is the rear spring. These are in stock, ready to ship, $295. And they offer about a 16 millimeter drop in the front and a 25 millimeter drop in the back. This is a level that's very livable and drivable. We also changed the spring rates to not only be stiffer, but to optimize performance with the factory struts and dampers. I've driven on these really nice handling, riding kit. I've driven them on street and track. The car was a riot on the track. A very fun car on the streets. I drive on some rough roads, driving out into the country, and handles great, rides good. It's definitely lower, it's definitely stiffer, but it's not dumped or slammed. We had one car here with a spring set that actually injured one of our engineers. He threw his neck out while he was driving it because it was he hit some pothole and jerked his neck and had to actually take a couple days off. Thankfully, it didn't turn into a full blown workman's comp issue, but he later drove on these springs and his neck handled it very well. So, talk about neck breaking performance.
Yes, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, in stock, ready to go. Highly recommended. Let us know if you have any questions about them. We got a few minutes left.
Handful of questions.
We're actually pretty caught up today. Questions. Would running an E85 file on stage 1 TCU for the B9 3.0 T be okay to do?
Yeah, that's certainly one of the combinations we were in. You'll get a lot more performance out of the TCU with stage 2. Your shift points will be more optimized. Whatnot. Stage 1 is just a torque unlock, but yeah, there's no downside to that other than there's more to be had with the stage 2.
And I'm surprised nobody's mentioned the new electric potential GTI replacement.
We haven't had any questions that I've seen about that.
Yeah. What's one product you are excited about getting to market in the next 2 years? Definitely mobile flash.
I think that's certainly been one of my can't wait to get it out there and move them for sure. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the same.
Yeah. I think I'm very interested to see the B10 Audi. I think that
the upcoming stuff from Audi.
Yeah, that will be the next generation A/S 4 chassis.
Yep.
So I haven't really. I mean, you hear a lot of stuff, and most of it never comes true or never comes to fruition. So that's why I'm kind of skeptical about the whether Volkswagen actually does an electric.
Sports, the GTI thing.
Sports coupe, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I guess what they're talking about now is like an ID3 performance, something like that. But it's interesting because a year ago I spoke to someone inside Volkswagen who said that they felt that the GTI was an internal combustion product, that they wouldn't take it electric anytime soon, and I disagreed. I thought they should. Maybe they're doing it to me. It's possible. Yeah, there were drinks involved, so
I'm just catching up on some of the blurbs now. The I in GTI now stands for intelligence rather than injection, says VW.
Well, people, the Facebook post is just a shit show of comments, everyone interpreting what they think GTI actually means.
Yep.
Everyone's like, so much for injection. It's like, well, that's not what the I stands for. Curious about thoughts of electric assisted turbos in the new C8 S6. we haven't really messed with them at all.
No, they kind of live. It's an interesting. They kind of live in the background. They're not necessarily there for peak performance. They bring things online a little bit sooner, but they're kind of out of the picture when you're at the higher boost level anyway.
Yeah.
So it's certainly just helps the driving feel, but the overall performance stuff. It's like the light assist hybrid stuff too. It's a pretty minimal extra bump, and it's kind of its own little system. It's running on the sideline. It'll be interesting to do more and more of this stuff that's coming up.
For me, it just feels like a lot of extra complexity in the engine compartment that just weighs me down and stresses me out a little bit. Given how some of these other cars perform, it seems really unnecessary. But we used to, 15, 20 years ago, dream about the possibility of electric turbos and stuff like that, just because we were dealing with 500 horsepower motors that didn't hit full boost until like 5,000.
Yeah, your power band just goes all the way to the right and starts shrinking.
A lot like that.
Like graph. Yeah.
But the turbos nowadays, I mean, like the TT810 is, you're like in full steam by 3,500 to 4,000 RPM, and you can rev all the way to 7,500. I mean, it just seems unnecessary, especially with the advancements in cam and valve control, timing control, and then FSI, the higher compression ratios. There's things that are happening so much sooner when it comes to power band. So it seems a little unnecessary and overly complex. I'll be shocked if they continue to use it, but it would be interesting to hear why they do.
Yeah, I want to see more and more of where they're going with it and what they're using it for. If it's an efficiency thing or if it's a just that little bit of extra torque on onset kind of thing.
Or maybe it helped them get around some emissions thing.
Yep.
Which seems more likely.
Yep. You can maybe resize your turbo a little bit better, so you've got a little less EMAP to deal with, and you've got a more efficient flowing setup.
I mean, they don't use
make up for it.
They don't use it in the RS6 or any of that stuff.
I don't know. None of the ones I'm trying to think of the newest one. I've got it off the top of my head.
For sure, the C8 S6, which is exactly copy paste RS5 motor. So
they use it on that.
Yeah. But there's more and more of that coming, I'm sure. I think we're going to see much more of a blend between ICE and EV stuff, including with stuff like this here, where you've got the biggest issue, I think, with a lot of these is you haven't had the voltage there to drive these powerful motors.
They're all like
you're stuck at 12 volts. So you to do that and make any kind of power, you've got like 0 or quad gauge wire running through the thing, and your heat and your efficiency goes through the roof. There's going to be a lot more potential for more electric power adders than we've been able to see.
But ultimately, it's like electric turbo, electric motor.
There's that. Why not just remove all of the inefficiencies of pushing it through the combustion process and just drive the wheels with it?
Really difficult to beat anything about an electric.
Yeah, because we're still in a 30% range or whatever for efficiency on an internal combustion motor. I think. Yeah, F1's like high 30s or something like that.
Yeah, electric motor just does everything better. And
it's just all about the energy storage and transfer for charging. Once that's someday sorted, game over.
Well, cool. I think we're out of time. Someone's asking about an E-blend issue.
I guess I follow up to the same. Somebody else said they had a really low content pump they pumped from. And they refilled with a certain amount of ethanol in their tank. They had like E60. They refilled with what they had measured as E87. The final reading was E72, and asking if it seems off. It's hard to know exactly how much fuel is left in the tank, regardless of what the gauge says.
Yeah.
So your content ratio is a tricky thing to figure out if you've got
could be quite a bit.
5 miles left till empty. Still could be 4 gallons of fuel in there because they're always pessimistic with range at the lower levels. So. Adding E87 to E60 in the tank, E72 doesn't seem unreasonable for that final result.
Yeah, it's within the plausible range.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for joining us. I think we'll see you next week. Should be like a normal week. Cheers. See you next time.